Hi, Evelyn. Welcome back to this third conversation, our third and final conversation in this series. I guess that there's going to be many more things that we do together, but in this series, this is our third conversation in public. And so we've been talking all about retreats and how retreats in my world are groups just in great locations, but how retreats can really be more than just a place to go do yoga, but can really be these places of transformation. And so in this third episode or third video, we wanted to talk about kind of how do you go from that vision or that spark of the idea of a retreat to like a booked retreat, both from like the sense of like booked with, working with someone like you, hopefully, where all the pieces of it and the locations and the logistics are booked, but also booked in the sense that it's something that people want to take part in. And so that's kind of our big overarching topic for this conversation. And I'd love to kind of hear your initial thoughts on, when you're thinking about how does someone get from that vision to booked? What are some of those initial thoughts you have?
Yeah. There was one thing that I was just thinking about today, um, that I think is really important that it's easy to forget. So when we're thinking about retreats, well, first of all, we want to plan far enough in advance. Okay. So, um, I would say like probably a year out is really best. Um, but we have to remember that in 1 year, most likely your business is going to look very different. Okay. So if you're a coach that is um, in a growth stage, you're planning for growth, um, you have ambition to do that, remember that you're going to be in a different place. So it's a little bit like taking a leap, and trusting, trusting yourself that your business is going to catch up with that idea, because there's a lot of I think there's some fear involved, if you haven't done this before and you're not sure if people are going to sign up. Um, so anyway, that's one thing to consider is that probably you're going to be in a different place and most likely you're going to be further along. Um, and and the next thing is that the timing piece that I was just talking about. So remembering that uh, especially like an international trip. So, and especially something that you might have particular special needs around meeting spaces, or like unique experiences that you want to do. Sometimes those things need to be booked pretty far in advance. So remembering that, like from the very first conversation with somebody where you're like speaking something into existence, can be scary, to the point at which you might actually book those things could be, a few months. So, yeah, so that's one thing. It's just like leave plenty of time and probably start the conversation with somebody in that world much sooner than you might think. So I would say start there.
Yeah, right. Like that, it's kind of that thing of like the spark or like the inclination of suddenly like, ooh, I want to have a retreat. And, I find that people either go straight to like searching a location or thinking of a place that they went to or want to go to, right? Um, and or they jump straight to content and it's like, what will we do and what will I talk about? And so both of those are important pieces, obviously, of it, but it isn't necessarily kind of that you want to go straight into either of those. We've talked in other videos about kind of really like the VIP process that I talk about, where it's like really getting a solid idea of like, what is the vibe? What is the environment? What is the essence you're trying to create? Who is it
Yes.
going to be for? And what are they going to accomplish or experience in the time together? And so I always say, like, take that initial spark and the excitement because you want to capture it, and that energy is
Mhm.
powerful. And don't go too far down the road. And know that there is a pretty long timeline often when it comes to retreat. Obviously, if you have a type timeline, it just means your choices are different, right? Like if it's
Yes.
not like you can't do it, it's just your options are different. You
Yeah.
often play a premium unless you're going really short, and then sometimes you can find a discount because they're just trying to fill something. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I, for me, I I never want that sense of urgency if I can avoid it, right? Life creates
Exactly.
urgency sometimes, right? But when there's that opportunity to kind of say like, no, I want to do this really strategically and slowly so that it's really a great experience for me. It's a great experience for the participants. And as we talked about in other videos, it's repeatable because it was so great for me, because it was so great for the participants. There's this idea that I can do it again. And so
Yes.
kind of slowing yourself down in order to have an even more impactful retreat experience that you can
Yeah,
offer
yeah.
people.
Yeah. And in addition, I would say, so if you're starting to talk about it kind of on the early side, as far as the planning, and maybe if you're talking to a planner or you're looking, doing like a little bit of research, I think it's also important to have discussions with the kinds of people you think will be at that retreat. So if you have already some existing clients, just like throw that idea out there. So with them or with other people, um, let that start to become part of your identity as a coach. Like you are a coach who does retreats, and the more that that gets talked about, the easier it is, for you to feel that yourself, as the leader, but also for the people around you to see that in you, so that it becomes sort of a natural evolution rather than like this is something that I'm hiding and this is something that I'm just planning and boom, like here it is. So there's there's some strategy actually in like letting it evolve, just like a relationship would with somebody that you're going to work with. Or, it's sort of like your relationship with yourself as retreat leader. It has to,
Totally. And your
right?
identity stepping into
Yeah.
it, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
because it's a big thing. Like it's a big undertaking. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So it takes time.
Yeah. And I think that talking to people as early as possible is just it's so uncomfortable, so I get it, right? Because it is like, oh, if I say it then I have to do it, or what if no one wants it? Like, it's a vulnerable state, and it's the only way to ensure that what you put out there is actually something that people will say yes to. You need
Yeah.
that beginning feedback to help shape it,
Yes.
to help let you know like you are on to something. The other thing that you said there about past participants, I think is an important thing, because I think a lot of people think of retreats as like a brand new offer, right? It's like
Right.
I've never done this before and all that kind of stuff. And my kind of perspective on it is the easiest and smoothest way to transition into retreats is to do something with people you've already worked with, to go
Of course.
back to those past clients. And you had mentioned in another video, like the ability to really have this way to scale intimately with people, right? And so it's that idea of you don't have to create something new for the retreat.
Yeah.
You can actually take the people you've worked with and just go to another level, or create a
Yeah.
space and experience that really allows them to really immerse in it and really focus on implementation and
Yes.
integration. And so that's one of the things for me when I think about that, from vision to booked, and the booked in particular, is you don't have to start from scratch. You can, for sure. Like if you want to see it as a whole new thing and it's a whole whatever, you can. But I think you miss a lot when you don't think of like maybe that first one especially can be with people I've already worked with. And there's just so
Hmm.
much value to that, to the participants, but also to the people. That just knowing
Yes.
most of the people takes a whole bunch of the stress and like worry off as
Yeah,
well.
of course. Well, and then, yeah, knowing those people, and it's sort of like being able to, in a way, curate the group that you're going to work with. That's ideal. Just to have, because the group dynamic that's a really important factor. There's a lady um I'm working with right now, and like she's having something very small, and it's great, it's a very small intimate thing, but she was really really adamant about that. She's like, no, I don't even have a sales page. Like I'm not opening this to everybody in the world. Like I know one person right now is interested in this, so we're going to try it and invite maybe just a couple more people and just take our time to create that small group of the right ones and do it like that. And that's her going to be her first um, her first one abroad. And I think that's a really smart way to do it too. Just don't be afraid to start small. Um, but start.
Yeah, yeah. It start small. And there, as we talked about last time, there's power in that smallness, the intimacy
Yes.
that's created. One of my mentors always said the most important decision you make is who you let in as
Oh,
in the
yes.
group. And it's even more in a retreat because
Absolutely.
you're whether you're literally sharing a house and living with each other or you're just spending like 10 plus hours a day, closer to 15, with
Hmm.
people on retreat, that the group dynamics become such a even more important part of it. I always see the group as kind of like an essence of itself, like there's like the soul of the group, and when it's a retreat, it plays an even bigger role in the group and in the
Yeah,
outcome,
absolutely.
because you are together in, like, living together is a real thing, like there's
Yes.
there's stuff that happens. So
Yes.
yeah, it's such, and so yeah, if you are, especially that first time, if you're working with people you've already worked with, you know who to send that invitation to. You
Exactly.
know who to have the conversation with. One of the things I think to think about from vision to booked, and I think this is a part that you're really helpful with, is, the idea that the planning part is not a luxury, like it really is something. And the number of hours and probably, I would guess, energy that's saved when someone works with someone like you with that,
Yeah.
and not just doing it by themselves, and they're not trying to sort everything out. So I'm
Yes.
curious about that part. Like, what role do you play, and how does that come out in terms of like making that planning even more impactful and the experience is better for the retreat leader?
So this is huge. It's so many hours. It's more hours than you can imagine. And it's not because it's not just you going on vacation. Okay. So a lot of people, it's like, oh, well, I've booked travel before and you know, I do that for my family and I book trips for myself. I'm good at researching and this and that. And that's fine. A lot of people are. But this isn't just for your family. Like this is your business and this is your relationships. And so, especially if you're going to take something abroad and take your people abroad to a place that is different, and you probably won't be able to see that place before you go there. Having somebody on that side um, who actually can be kind of on the ground or has more intimate knowledge of the culture and just how things work, and also actually the venues. Um, I think that's just extremely valuable. Um, it it kind of, I mean, nothing's guaranteed, but you know, stuff can happen, but it gets a lot closer to a guarantee that it's going to be a really quality experience. And so just that peace of mind is really valuable. Uh, and then, of course, the hours of the logistical preparation, planning, researching the places, figuring out the transportation, figuring out the meals, figuring out the this person with the allergies and this person who suddenly got sick and needs to go to the doctor, or having a point person there uh, is just, yeah, again, it's peace of mind. So it's both those things. So it's a time thing and then the peace of mind. Both of those things together, I think, is what really gives value to having a planner.
What I'm curious about is, so you mentioned like quite a few things there, but like what are the things that having someone like you helping them with are the things that people don't realize. Like when you were talking about that, like,
Ah,
oh, I never would have thought of like if someone gets sick. Like it just wouldn't have been
yes.
something I thought about. So what are some of those things where it's like, yes, okay, people get that you help with like the flights and like getting to and from and the location or whatever. But what are some of the
Yes.
other things that you're helping them to think about and helping them to like not have to think about?
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, there's some of those things that like you don't really know. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
yes.
Um, Yeah, so I think that's where like the being immersed in the culture part for me is good because there's some cultural differences. So that's one of the things. Even simple things like tipping, or simple things like the fact that in this area they don't speak English as well, so you might have a little bit more trouble. Or in this other country, yeah, they're all really great English speakers. Or in this particular place, uh, it tends to be super rainy at that time of year, or it's super overcrowded with tourists, or these things that kind of I sort of have my mind on just by being here and having lived in these places, and having lived in Barcelona for 2 years, having lived in Madrid for this year, and Toledo, and been in Spain for 9 years, and in other countries for others. Um, so yeah, it's that, just sort of like these little cultural pieces that are going to be different, and you might not expect them. Um, that that can be discussed in advance, and also when you encounter them, it can be like, didn't think about this, and then they ask me, so I'm right there. So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think when we first connected, that was one of the things that I was like, wow, this is super helpful. Is because in my experience, and my experience with this is mostly corporate, but it still relates, is sometimes you get an on-site person at the hotel or the location, but they are only for that, right? Like
hmm
they if you get a nice one, they might know some other stuff and help you with some stuff, but like really their job is to book you at their location and help you at their location. And
yeah,
so, what I love about kind of when we were talking and getting a feel for what you do is that idea of like, oh no, this is you, you're the person for the group leader. Like your location in my language, agnostic. Like you are not tied to a location, a town, a
yeah,
whatever, because of your experience, because of you living in all these places, you really are there for the group leader.
yes,
And I just loved that idea of like, oh, like how helpful is that? Because sometimes, I've seen people who are like they bring their friend along to help with some
mm,
of the stuff. And I'm not criticizing that concept, but like the difference between your friend who just is excited to come on the trip with you and versus like, no, this is somebody who knows this, who lives this, and his
yeah,
sole purpose here is to help you be as successful in this retreat as possible.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's like details that might come up too, um, shoot, I need to print, I don't know how many copies of XYZ thing that I wanted to give today, or um,
Yeah.
just random stuff like that. And or like just the knowledge that here pharmacies are different
Yes.
than in the US, for example. Like in the US, you can go to a pharmacy and you can buy anything, but here, if you want to get drugs, you have to go to a specific place, and just these little differences um, that make a culture what it is, and sometimes throw people off. And like that throwing people off can be a source of stress, can be a source of anxiety, like when you have to be the leader of several people. Um, and so yeah, just having that person who's more in the know just takes that stress away.
And as you're saying that, one of the things I'm thinking about is, as those things happen, to the group leader, they're still responsible for the group, right? So again, it's this idea that you are there to help the group leader because they can kind of say like, "Ooh, this thing happened. Can
Mhm.
you help with it in the moment?" And then they can kind of make sure the rest of the group or the group continues to do what they need to versus like, "Oh crap, this happened. I got to go out here."
Yeah.
So again, like you don't know what's going to happen, but you do know that things are going to happen, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, you never know. That always stuff always happens on trips,
always
right?
happens. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I think in summary, what we're kind of saying here, right, is to go from vision to book. Number one, it's going to take longer than you think it is. So take the time. Don't put yourself and your participants in this rushed sense. There's really no need for it. And the timing part really matters. It impacts what options you have and what choices you have. And the other thing is that your experience is also important. Just for you as a human, your experience matters, but also you have a responsibility as a group leader to be available and present and help the people that are there. And so get the support you need. Get the support in the planning part, get the support in the structure part. What is this group about? Talk to people, including past participants, to get them into the program, but then keep getting support all the way through and also on site. And
Yes.
then you're going to have the type of retreat that you want to do again. You're going to have people who have such a great experience. They're telling other people about it, and whether they repeat it or they tell other people to go do it, it's how you can build a business or a portion of your business
Mhm.
around this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Evelyn, I want to thank you so much for having this conversation in public with me. I'd love to, at this point in time, just kind of give you the opportunity to say, like, how best, like, how do you work with people and what's the best way for them to kind of stay connected to you?
Yeah. Well, um, it's very easy to talk to me, and I love hearing from people at no matter what stage they are in. With whether your retreat is just like a tiny seed in your imagination right now, um, or you're already kind of further along, or you've had a retreat before, doesn't matter. I just I love chatting about it. So the first thing to do is just sign up for a chat with me, and we can just talk about your vision. And then as far as working together, if that's something that we decide we want to do, um, I start off by listening to your vision and really deeply understanding it. And then I go and do the research that I need to create that vision, um, to create the itinerary, to create all of the details that fill it out. Um, you know, and then I'm basically here as well when you're on retreat to just kind of be your right hand person. So I'm here with you through the whole process so that it just is a really stress-free experience.
Which I love. Like I did as when we first started talking, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I what I hear in what you're saying there, I think is such an important part. Like anywhere in this process, come talk to me. Obviously, the earlier the better. And I sometimes have people who are like, oh, Carrie, I don't know if it's too early to talk to you. And I'm like, if you're thinking about it at all, let's talk. And sometimes for me, I'll say, "Oh yeah, you're not ready yet. Keep doing what
Mhm.
you're doing, and this is what you want to like. This is what you need before it makes sense that we
Yeah.
really start working together or start doing something." But having that initial conversation to kind of say like this is what it looks like, and there's always, and I'm sure you do this too, there's always things that we end up saying like, "Oh, well, have you thought about this or have you thought about
Yeah.
this?" That just helps with that process to get ready for the
Yes.
actual work to be done. So, recognizing with people, we appreciate that you don't want to come too early because you don't want to waste our time or whatever that thing is we tell ourselves. And that initial conversation, even if it is too early, it's not too early. And there will be value in it for you. And it will help you know kind of like what do you need in order to be ready.
Yes.
Yeah, very cool. Well, just for those that don't know me, I work in a similar fashion to Evelyn. It really is always about understanding kind of what the vision for the group is. And so, what I do in terms of kind of like someone who's watched or listened to this, what I offer is a group enrichment session. And that really is just how do we take what you've learned in this series and make it applicable to you? So, as you're listening, as you're watching, the questions that you have, that's the time we get to talk about your group, your retreat. And so you can book that. That's free. It's really a level of support with this. So whether that idea is just a seed or you're a little further along, that's where we start. And then depending on kind of where you're at, we can talk through what other supports look like. But it really is that first part of like, let's make sure you got what you needed from this, and how do you apply it to your group? Very cool. Well, the invitation we have to people at the end of this is like really think about for yourself, what are three areas in your retreat that you think it would be really helpful to get help on, right? And start with that three. We love the threes. And then really figure out what's the one that would be most impactful for you. Like, is it logistics? Is it vision? Is it structure? Figure out that top one and figure out who can help you, whether that's Evelyn, whether that's myself or someone else. Really lean into getting that help as you put this big vision of your retreat out in the world. So, Evelyn, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. We will talk
Thank
soon.
you. Thanks so much, Carrie. It's always a pleasure.
Take care.